Hi everybody, this is the football hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the people's champion, your host, the hut, and we're going to talk about the Giants here. But as I do this video, things are not going over so well with the Jets. There's a possibility that Aaron Rodgers might have a ruptured Achilles tendon. I've been joking around saying that the Jets are so snake-bit that this is going to be like Vinny Testaverde when they played the first game in 1999. And he got an Achilles tendon early in that first game during the Bill Parcells era. So he would go from... Well, let's talk about the Giants, though. How bad were the Giants? Well, it's funny you should ask. It's one of the worst losses in the history of this team. Almost a 100-year franchise is one of the worst losses. From GiantsWire.USA today, Giants said several unwanted historical marks in Week 1 loss. Holy crap. It's about as bad as it gets. New York Giants were shattered by the Dallas Cowboys 40-0 in their 2023 regular season opener at MetLife Stadium on Sunday night in front of the whole world. They did nothing right the entire night. If one wondered about what the worst case scenario outcome would look like before the game, they didn't have to wait long to find out. Giants broke down all facets of the game: offense, defense, special teams, and seemed as if they were staying still as the speedy Cowboys out-hustled and mishandled them all night. It was bad, for sure, but how bad? Well, it's funny you should ask. Historically bad, that's how bad. The shutout loss was only the third at the hands of the Cowboys since 1960. Lost 35-0 in 95, 27-0 in 96. But in those games, the blowouts outcomes were expected. The largest shutout loss the Giants ever suffered in a regular season game came in 1945, right after World War II, when the Philadelphia Eagles handed them a 45-0 beatdown. Next up was the ill-fated trip to Oakland in 1973, when the Raiders rocked them 42-0. This is a complete mismatch, as the Raiders were a league power on the legendary coach John Madden, and the Giants were struggling to find their way in the post-merger era. Sunday night's games ranked third on the list. The Giants came into the game with high expectation, only to fall flat on their faces and on their asses. For the record, other shutout loss of 34 more points in Giants history. 38-0 Detroit versus the Giants in 1938. 34-0 Atlanta versus the Giants in 2012. 38-0 Carolina versus the Giants in 2013. Still not convinced this was an all-time ass whooping in NFL history. No team, and the hut means no team, has even lost 40-0 or worse. Lost the sack battle 7-0 or worse. Lost the turnover battle 3-0 or worse. And a field goal blocked and returned for a touchdown and throwing a pick six in the same season. These Giants accomplished that in under 4 full quarters on Sunday night. Alright, Giants Wire tries to make it seem like there were actually good performances in this game. But I watched the game. I know what the hell I saw. I know what you saw. There was nobody that of any note that had any kind of good play in this game. So I'm going to read you what they say in this. Here's a dud. New York Giants opened the 2023 regular season with an absolute stinker. On Sunday night, falling to the Dallas Cowboys 40-0 in their worst Week 1 loss in franchise history. Not only was it an all-time franchise mark in futility, it was one of the worst statistical performances in the NFL's long lifespan. Here's a look at some studs, and quite a few duds. Almost all of them are duds. Number 1, Brian Daboll. Well, he did not have a good day. The Giants were completely unprepared for the Cowboys on Sunday night, and that falls squarely on the shoulders of their head coach, Brian Daboll. Whether it was Daboll's decision leading up to the game or his decisions during the game itself, things were a disaster from the jump. While quarterback Daniel Jones accepted blame for staying on the field down big in the rain, that is a completely unnecessary risk Daboll should never have taken. Ditto leaving Andrew Thomas with his hamstring in the game. It's rare that Daboll takes an L, but that was a big one to start the season. Now, last year, going into the last season, the Giants had a big win. And now we're going into this season with a historically bad loss. This doesn't, let's hope there's not a bad omen for the whole season. God help us. A dud, Evan Neal. Well, that goes out saying. Leading up to kickoff, right tackle Evan Neal was anxious for some redemption against the Cowboys, who dominated him during his rookie season. Neal said his rookie performance against the Cowboys was one of the worst of his entire career. On the plus side, that's no longer the case. Neal's worst ever performance actually came on Sunday night. Let me tell you something. If you watch that game, there were guys half his size running right through him like they were nothing. Guys that were half his height and half his weight were flying right through him. There were guys that were under 200 pounds going right through him like a hot knife into butter. I mean, really pathetic. He might be the bust. He might be the first bust of the Joe Shane era. Another dud. And he was a draft pick last year, big hype. Then another draft pick from last year. They say he's a dud. Kayvon Thibodeau. He swears that the primetime lights love him, but with the exception of one moment against the Commanders last season, we haven't seen it. Against the Cowboys, Thibodeau recorded just 4 tackles, 1 solo, and that was it. He sucked. He routinely out-pursued against the run and had no impact whatsoever as a pass rusher. This is a guy who came in with such a big reputation. He was terrible. And he's been terrible. He sort of wasn't there much there last year. And now this year, what a disaster. Wasn't even there. Didn't even show up. Big players play in big spots. And the Giants need him to play well. Definitely. They say stud on Xavier McKinney. Yeah, okay. Let me read you what they said about him. On a night it was difficult to pinpoint a single positive, we'll give a very small tip to the cap to Xavier McKinney. Yes, McKinney did miss a tackle to one lead to a big play. Once you say that, what the hell is this? Someone has to go in the stud category. No, they don't. Okay, here's another dud, and this goes without saying. This is the kicker, Graham Gano. Fresh off a significant contract extension, the always automatic Graham Gano missed 2 field goals. One was blocked, hardly his fault, and the other was pushed wide from just 36 yards out. When Gano misses a chip shot, you know things are spiraling out of control. Let me tell you something. This special teams has to get itself together. Okay, because last year they were a disaster. I think we all know that. And the offensive line was a disaster. A stud, the Giants fans, I watched this entire game, folks. I watched this entire game. I watched a lot of games last year, trying to rev up myself to get going for this channel, do a great channel for you, get to relearn the game, get to know these particular players. And this was one of the worst. And I haven't watched the first game of a season in at least 10 years. This was one of the worst Giants games I have seen ever. It was that bad. And I watched the whole thing. Now, as Giant fans, we've seen this franchise win Super Bowls. We've seen them win 4 Super Bowls. I've seen them win 4 Super Bowls. They've been they're one of the great franchises. But over the last 10 years, they've been terrible. And this was the worst. This has to be the lowest point. This must be the worst game since they won the Super Bowl in 2012. That's how bad of a loss this was, in my humble opinion. And it's just the first game of the season. Just think of that. Just think of that for a second. Okay, who else is a dud? Everyone else. We could spend all day in 50-plus slides listening to duds from this game. Everyone from Daniel Jones to Jalen Hyatt and from Leonard Williams to Deonte Banks is to blame. There is really no one player who escapes that reality. The Xavier McKinney pity edition aside, it was a pathetic, I agree, display. The Giants organization should be embarrassed, ashamed, and angry. I know I'm angry with this futility. I mean, really, you could say Saquon Barkley did okay, but, he didn't. I mean, John Michael Schmitz, he screwed up one of the snaps. He was not impressive. Again, Evan Neal, how many times from that side did Daniel Jones get sacked? At least 3 or 4 times, right, from that side. How many times they just run right through him, just push right through him like it was nothing. Man, Jalen Hyatt, his first throw to him, he dropped it. Daniel Jones made a throw interception later, in the third quarter. Start the third quarter, he's looked terrible. I mean, people are very uptight about this game. They're very uptight about Daniel Jones because some people didn't want them to re-sign him. They wanted to let him walk. And they thought that maybe he got past these bad mistakes that he made in this game, especially in the third quarter. I mean, this is really quite a mess we found ourselves into. Hopefully they can turn it around, but they have a tough schedule. This is a difficult schedule for the Giants to manage. 7 of the first 9 games are on the road. They go on the road on Sunday. They play in Arizona. The following week, they play the Niners. And the Niners are one of the top 3 teams in the NFC. It is going to be very difficult. And I'll tell you, football in New York went from being a lot of excitement to who knows now. Keep our fingers crossed. I know a lot of Jets fans watch these videos, I guess. But we want to see great players play. We don't want to see Aaron Rodgers being out for any length of time. And the Giants, boy, they need to get themselves right in the right direction, because this is not good. It's not good. It's bad. So let me know what you think about this video. Of course, please subscribe to the Football Hut. Thank you, and I'll see you later.